Welcome to episode 6 of Cracking the Codex for the Ork Codex. Oh, I know.
Orks.
What do I normally say? Fuck, I do it every time. No, I got past that bit. We're a beautiful disaster. We just, I struggle with the first 10 seconds and then we just flow for the entire
and
thing
I struggle with the
afterwards.
rest of it.
Hi, welcome to episode 6 of Cracking the Codex for Orks. This week we are looking at the Kult of Speed, and we are joined by our very own Treadhead himself, Wheelhead, Gearhead, any of the above. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm very well, thank you, Ed. Thank you very much for having me on for this one. Excited about Kult of Speed. Looking forward to this.
Fantastic. You've been playing Kult of Speed in a league, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm playing them in our sort of in-house 6 plus TTS league because that felt like a sort of fun and silly army I could run, and a nice opportunity to test out some of the Ork units. So yeah, also it helps when you can play on TTS when you've got none of the models yet finished. So that was ideal.
That is ideal. And also, as always, joined by John. John, you're very excited about going fast and hitting that speed. How are you doing?
Yeah, so this is the interesting one for me because I've got a history with Kult of Speed. So 3rd edition, everything was in trucks, made out of Gorka Morka trucks. Then in 7th edition, when Orks were shite, everything hid in trucks because it was the only way to survive. And then when they were a bit bonkers in 9th edition, I took all the buggies. So I am one of those problematic bastards. So yeah, I'm up for it. I still haven't played it though.
Also, you played buggies in 9th edition, yeah?
Yeah.
I can't hide from it.
No. Yeah, we
had
were
a lot of
talking
Death Copters as well. That was your thing.
I own 15 Death Copters.
Yeah.
It's a good number. We were talking about it before the show started, and I realised that even though I haven't played them since the start of 8th, basically, sort of a year into 8th, 9th, whatever it was, it's still the army I've got the most competitive games with, which is a little distressing.
Amazing.
But we'll move on, because we're talking about Orks. And what do you get if you're an Ork player? You get the same thing that you get every week, and I'm going to say it for the 6th time. You get a War. War is great.
Wow.
For one turn and one turn only, we've got a buff coming straight to your doors, and that is Advance and Charge. Maybe slightly less of a thing in this detachment because you want to take some guns, Death Copters, but also Mega Knobs are good all of the time, so never a bad thing. Not only do you get Advance and Charge, you also get 5 up Invuln, you get +1 to the strength and attacks of your melee weapons in combat, and as always, remember that you've got to call it at the start of the battle round, so if you're going second, you do have to call your shot. In this one, I think it's slightly less of a disadvantage because you might be just popping it to get some, tasty invuln on that unit of Death Copters, for example. Although there is another way around that, so we'll get to that one. But enough about what you get for being an Ork. We know that. What do you get for being an adrenaline junkie?
Yeah, adrenaline junkie. Well, speed freaks in this army are eligible to shoot in a turn in which they advanced or fell back. So this is very nice. Combos with the War, obviously you can have a turn where all of your stuff is yeeting, shooting and charging. So Death Copters can get really stuck in, Bikers can get really stuck in. And it is nice because this is quite a stodgy build with a lot of big models. So being able to just drop back and still shoot things is very nice. So yeah, it's good for just a very blocky, stodgy way of playing the army, which I think Kult of Speed is.
And it also fixes one particular model in the army.
It does.
Oh, very exciting. If you want to run a shock jump dragster and shoot after you teleport around the board, you absolutely can do that, but only in this detachment.
You can, which makes it a genuine action monkey as well, doesn't it? Because it can teleport around, be eligible to shoot, do actions all over the place as well. So it's quite an annoying little unit in this. The gun is obviously not bad either. But yeah, I think the dragster actually functions as you imagine it was intended to in this detachment.
Yeah, I'm just getting flashbacks to the one time I played it in the Index and realised I couldn't shoot after advancing. And I was like, oh, I've messed up here.
Yeah. It's not a bad little unit, though. Hits on 3s, one of the only things in the game that hits on 3s.
It's accurate for an Ork. Yeah.
It's because it's a garrote shooting, that's why.
Yeah, all right. But you did get some other tasty treats. What else you get, John?
Right, so our first enhancement is Faster Than Use. So Ork Infantry only. Each time the bearer's unit disembarks from a transport after the transport has made a normal move, So specifically normal move. The bearer's unit is still eligible to declare a charge this turn. So it's got assault ramps. Pretty cool.
It's a really good enhancement. I think you'd be taking this every time in almost any of them, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Was this good when you could take it in 9th edition?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was. Yes.
I wanted it twice.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
3 times.
Well, now you can have it again. So all you have to do is whack it on a unit of knobs or mega knobs and
Exactly.
have a great time.
Yeah, it gives you great reach with an uppercut unit, which is really, really nice to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got a preference between the two for which you'd like to put this on?
I've run it with knobs purely because in terms of just weight of attacks and damage, that was the one that I liked. But I think mega knobs, obviously, so having played it now, I think it's a detachment that really wants to be able to absorb a lot of damage for a turn or two and then push and just block the opponent in. So I think mega knobs really lean into that plan. So being able to have your send turn and also be shoving one of those 4-up feel no pain mega knob squads a long way up the board feels like a really nice way to use it, I think.
Agreed.
Nice.
Next one then.
All right, you also get speed makes right, and this can only go on an orc model. It's key to remember that. In your commend phase,
no Tau allies
is on the border in a transport, and within 9 inches of one or more enemy units on a 3+, you gain a CP. So you farm CP. You have to roll for it. You have to be near things. You have to be on the border in a transport. I mean, there's like 6 reasons there that I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
It's less points than 40 points worth of grots.
And this is the thing, it's the grot space. You've already got grots in the list. They're already getting you a CP on a 4-up. I just don't think it makes it.
Or maybe you're playing tactical. Or maybe you're playing both.
Maybe you are. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't think it is. The others in here are better than this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next one.
Right, Squig Hide Tires, Death Killer Wartrike model only. The next two are both Death Killer only, which does slightly limit their application because the Death Killer is a big chunky boy. But it's not a bad unit, actually. I was impressed with the Death Killers in the game I played. So I think this gives you the model and the Bearer's unit to be able to make a consolidation move of up to 6 instead of up to 3. Oh. So if you're thinking about wiring, pushing up, killing a screen, pushing up even further into the things behind it, it's really nice for that. So again, that just contributes to what the sort of Kult of Speed want to do, which is just shove lots of stuff up the board very aggressively and take up all the space.
I found the equivalent of this in Bully Boys with Mega Knobs catches people out because
it really does.
You space your units thinking, no one's going to be able to get into me, but that extra 3 inches, it means that they're having to be quite far away from the units that they're trying to screen with as well.
Yes.
It's very pesky.
Yeah, I've run this and the next enhancement on Death Killers with bikes as well, but actually maybe just the Death Killer is enough, just for...
that is spicy.
Just running forwards. He's cheap enough on his own that as a sort of obnoxious, annoying sort of forward push
8
unit.
Wounds?
Yeah, 8 wounds and just the sort of profile that in the turn they're trying to hurt you is everywhere. That's the thing with this. It's like it's a skew type army, isn't it? This one, so it just means it's yet another thing that's really obnoxious to deal with.
Speaking of obnoxious,
well, before we get into that, that's actually a really interesting thought because it is a model that has a 12-inch flamer on it.
That's it. Yeah,
it's only one flamer, but it is a little bit. There are some matchups where having a D6 shot 5/1/1 flamer is actually quite frustrating to deal with.
He's good. He was a very good little space control. I was playing against Sakari the other night with it, and so very, very obnoxious for that. And he's especially once you've got bikers as well. That's actually a lot of shots coming out of it. So the Overwatch is definitely threatening to MSU.
Yeah, like it.
And then finally, the Waz Blaster. So again on the Death Killer Wartrike.
Yep.
In your shooting phase after the bearer's unit is shot, if it is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, it can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. If it does, it's not eligible to declare a charge.
Yeah.
Fire and fade.
Yeah.
Fire and fade. So again, getting pesky elves around corners or just yeeting up the board is obviously the alternative as well. If you're going really aggressive and just trying to block a portion of the board off with bikes and the Wartrike, this just means with the assault as well, you've got like 12-inch move, advance, shoot 6 inches more. It's a lot of space they can make up.
Yeah, my favourite way to use Fire and Fade is to go forwards with it. It's
absolutely, and I think that's probably what they have in mind for this one.
It does feel like that. Yeah.
It's the Orky way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so shall we move on to some stratagems then?
Let's do it. I'll get my book. Make sure I don't get these wrong.
Right, so the very first one. So we've got them listed as battle tactics, just for kind of reference. That isn't important for Orc players because there's no way of getting them for free, but it's more that they can be increased in cost.
Yes.
So the first one is Blitzer Fire, which is in a battle tactic in your shooting phase. One or more Speed Freaks units from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by the models in this unit have lethal hits. And each time you make an attack that targets a unit within 9 inches, crits are triggered on a unmodified 5+ instead of a 6.
Yes.
You cannot target this with a unit that's been hit by the Dagger Storm battle tactic, though, because I think they saw that coming.
Yeah, I love the flavor on this one. It's a buff. If you're within 9 inches, it's a buff.
Yeah.
So main place you're going to see this is your big units of 6 Deathcopters.
Yep.
This list could theoretically struggle to crack those hard units.
Yep.
If every hit you're rolling is actually just
that's
a
the
wound
thing.
with
It's literally all their hits, isn't it? Hitting on 5s, so it's very, very potent.
Big fan of that. So you can actually do a real dent to some T12.
They put out a lot of shots, Deathcopters. It's just I think AP is always the issue, AP2, but this puts a lot of weight of shots on.
Using this with just rockets and not the custom Mega Blasters, it gives you an argument to going just the rockets for the blast as well, to just maximize potential shots.
Yeah, the blast is definitely effective once you hit sort of any kind of squad, really. Cool. Should we do full throttle?
Yeah.
Full throttle is a nice simple one. I've never actually used this. In your charge phase, I was playing against Drakari for context. After a Speed Freaks army in your unit in your army makes a charge, they can get +1 to wound on the attack. So bikers and Deathcopters, all these things are all coming in at sort of strength 5, strength 6, or power claws. Getting them +1 to wound again helps them to punch things that are a little bit tougher than they are, or also just really shove damage through on weaker targets as well.
Yeah, and Deathcopters have a real weight of attacks. I think it's 6
They
attacks
have a
each.
lot. Yeah, exactly. 7 in the war. So a unit of 6, 7 in the war, that's a lot of attacks. 42 attacks with +1 to wound at strength 6 is a lot.
It's not bad. Not bad. Moving on to Dagger Storm. Do you want to give us this one, John?
Yeah, so this is, again, shooting phase. One Speed Freaks unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have sustained hits 1. If they're within 9 inches of the target, it's sustained hits 2.
Yes.
Of course, it can't trigger with Blitzer Fire, so you can't have
Yeah, you can't combo the 2, which is a shame. Careful rules, right? Do they really need it? Was it that bad? Is it that scary?
They like to do this with Orks, though. Traditionally, there's been times where they've actively made sure there wasn't these combos.
Yeah. But Sustain 2 obviously is a hell of a drug.
It's pretty
good. Really potent up close.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. And it basically means that your Deathcopters, and the best thing about it, because it's 2 strats, instead of just going, you get lethal hits or sustained hits, you can go, 2 of my units are going to kill something real bad.
Exactly right. Yeah. And you've got your, there's a hard target, we'll get the lethals. There's quite a large number of, as a big unit, I will use Blast and use my Sustain 2.
There's some enemy Mega Knobs.
Yeah.
Guess I'm going to see if I can chip through those.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. And I was running them with 2 of the custom booster blasters, the hazardous gun in there, and that's 6 shots flat anyway. So you're always getting a couple of extra hits off of this most of the time. So suddenly for Orks, heading towards 4 or 5 hits from 6 shots is pretty good going for Orks. That's that's a lot better than they normally expect.
It really is. All right, what do we got for Speediest Freaks, Tom?
Speediest Freaks. This is actually, in my opinion, probably the most crucial stratagem in this detachment. This is after you've been selected in the shooting or fight phase as a target, and you can select either a Speed Freaks or truck unit that's been selected. Until the end of the phase, the models in the unit have a 5 up, but if the unit is a vehicle unit with the toughness of 8 or less, they get a 4 up. So that works on Deathcopters and that works on trucks. So sudden 4-up invuln in the midst of all the chaos is a big deal. And Deathcopters, the sorts of guns that like to pick off Deathcopters are usually like good quality but low volume. So suddenly stopping half of them, let's say Dark Lancers again from my game the other day, that's a big deal. That really, really throws off the kinds of guns that like to go into those sorts of units.
I really like it on a truck as well.
Yeah.
Just, you put a truck on an objective with some, boys or knobs inside, and your opponent goes, I'll just shoot it with these 2 guns, and that'll die. But what if it didn't, because you had a 4-up invuln?
Exactly.
It makes their life a lot more difficult, that's for sure.
Exactly that. It's a classic sort of punishes under commitment, isn't it? It's going to, if they don't really make sure they've got multiple options in range, they're just not actually going to do much into your units, and they don't know where it's going to be applied, which is very, very nice.
Lovely. All right. Squig flinging. What we got, John?
So this is actually, I think, a piece of tech that I really appreciate a lot more in the recent weeks, which is your movement phase just after a speed freaks or truck unit from your army has ended a normal move, advance or fallback. That unit, so you can select one enemy unit within 9 inches of it. They must take a battle shock test, and when doing so, it's at a -1. So I love this as the idea if you've got, say, a truck full of meganobs that are faster than yous. The truck then flings a squig at them, the opponent, and goes, "Oh, you're battle shocked."
Yes.
That unit you're now going to charge can't do any reactive strats. So they can't go, "Okay, we're going to fight on death," or insert something other that's obnoxious. And it's just suddenly just ruins your opponent's day. And I love that.
Yeah, it's obviously got risk to it, but the ability to turn off, especially something like Armor of Contempt for an army like this, which is just drowning in AP2, is huge. It's really, really big. If you, but obviously it's just not going to work all the time, but potentially massive.
And you have to. There'll be times where people have got squig models spare. They have to throw that at their opponents.
It's
models.
important, yes. Or if you have a squig beanie baby, you have to literally fling it at their face. I think. I don't know if those exist or not, but they should.
Much friendlier than the what I remember from 5th edition, which was a dreadnought in a sock.
The good old days.
Absolutely. Speaking of Morgits over here, we've got Morgits over here. What does that do, Tom?
So this is a reactive move. There's lots like this out in the game, right? So if something comes within 9 of an enemy unit that's just finished a normal move, advance or fall back, you can reactive move 6. Always good. Do you want to move back round a corner? Do you want to shove a bunch more OC on the point? And bikers and copters all being OC2 means you can really cover objectives with OC2 units, which is actually a real pain in the ass.
And also having big bases.
Exactly. And that's I think, the thing with this detachment. Its strength and its weakness are the same, which is just it takes up a lot of space. Yeah. And it's really, really irritating to the opponent that if an army needs space to function, they're not going to get it. And at the same time, it's a bit of a faff to move your models around. But yeah, having reactive moves to shuffle things about, just slink back behind ruins if you've been sticking your head out to shoot, all those kinds of things, or creep forwards. It's a very flexible tool, very, very powerful.
So you're telling me that theoretically you could turn 1, advance a Death Killer Wartrike with some bikes.
Yeah.
18 inches, flat 6, because that's what it does.
Yep.
And then you shoot. Then you move another 6. You've gone 24. So you've crossed the entire deployment zone, but you're not in their deployment yet. You're just outside of it. And then on your opponent's turn, they go, well, I can't not move. So they do move, and you go, cool, now I'm on the objective that you've just not put much stuff on, and I'm going to get primary on your objective.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. I think you can just put bikes and copters in annoying places, put trucks in annoying places. I mean, trucks don't work with that stratagem, but you can definitely chuck a lot of stuff all over the place and just say you've got massive blocking problems.
Very nice. Just very quickly then, before we go onto the list, because we haven't got one on the list, but there is a unit that I do want to highlight because I think it's interesting.
Okay.
And I think you might have to jump through too many hoops to get there, but the Dakar Jet.
Okay.
God.
It's relatively cheap for a plane. It's 135 points.
That's very cheap.
Yeah, 9 wounds at T9. Sorry, T9, 12 wounds, 3 up armor save, 6 up inthon. Fairly standard as flyers go. It's not bad. I don't believe it has hover. Let me just double check the keywords.
No
hover. So it becomes a little more difficult because you want to get it within 9. But it has every hit is a crit hit. So if you, for example, buff it to hit on 4s with a mech, it only has 18 shots. It's not quite the the horror it used to be. But if you're within 9 inches and you've buffed it to hit on 4s, you're going to be getting 18 hits from the sustained hits, and also you can spend a CP to give lethal hits on 6s. But lethal hits on, was it 5s?
It would be 5s if you're within 9.
So you get 6 lethal hits as well, and the 18 hits. I think there's maybe something there. I don't think it's the A1 damage output. You're running your death copters, but after you've done that, you kind of run out of things to spend points on damage wise.
And the planes ingressing in and sort of scooting over that whole ruckus and punking what's behind the lines feels very useful. It feels like something the army doesn't naturally have a means to do otherwise.
It definitely needs to be ingress. You're 100% right. And the nice thing about that is because they made planes a little harder to use, because you pivot at the end of your move instead of at the start of your move, so you have to sort of call your shot where you're going. Well, if you're ingressing, your opponent's done all their moving. You
Exactly.
can see where you put it. So I think there's genuinely something there that you can
Almost certainly, yeah.
play around with.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you take it in every list. I don't know if you take 2. I think 1 is
no,
probably...
for sure. I think, plugging in a couple of the different planes and seeing what they offer, because they do have the keywords.
Yeah.
And again, they can benefit from an invuln or whatever else. They've got some obnoxious options. And as you say, that one's definitely cheap enough that you don't hate plugging it in, right?
Yeah. Even without the mech combo, which I think is maybe getting a little too into magical fantasy world, I think maybe just taking 1 and going, oh, you've got, a unit of guardsmen or cultists holding your back objective. Now you don't.
Exactly.
You're going to have to want to deal with that because I've got stuff in Deep Strike.
Yeah, exactly that. It definitely has application.
Lovely. Well, let's move on to the list that doesn't have any planes in.
No, I'm not much of a planes believer these days myself.
Right, there we go.
So this is the list I've been running in the league, and I think I wanted to try out as many of the different tools as possible to get a kind of a scoop on it for this, and so we'd have a sense of what it's like. So this has a little bit of everything. It's got a war boss with Power Claw and the Faster Than News enhancement, so he runs with 10 knobs in a truck, so you've got a truck that can go a considerable distance, add the disembark to it, and then that 10 knobs unit can connect really hard with something and cause a massive problem ahead of the lines. You've got Gazgul with 6 mega knobs. Now, he's not synergizing with the detachment in any of the sort of detachment rules sense, but what he is very murderous and very durable, and he runs up the middle whilst all the other nonsense is happening, being a big problem. Then you've got a Death Killer War Trike with the Squig Hide tires, and he's got 6 War Bikers, so that's a big fire and fading brick, so it can fire and fade forwards, it can fire and fade back. You've got another Death Killer War Trike with the Waz Blaster for the Extended Consolidate. That's a sort of forward pressure thing that can go through screens. Then you've just got 10 boys in a truck, 2 squads of 5 Storm Boys, Gretchen for the backfield, 2 big bricks of Deathcopters with booster blasters and rockets, and then Snickrot, because it would be really sad if this lovely pressure list couldn't leave its deployment zone, right? So Snicky just hides somewhere. I think you probably do want to scrimp and save and get commandos in and just have a proper line of commandos. This is me cutting costs and being a bit cheap with it. So I think that easily changes to commandos. And so yeah, this goes and stands on the points and pushes up very aggressively. It's got a lot of very chewy units that aren't easy to kill for anything outside of dedicated sort of tank and elite killing units, and it's got a little bit of mission play sprinkled in as well, and it shoves lots of big bases with OC2 all over the place and says, can you get me off?
Perfect. I think I'd like to see a 3rd squad of Deathcopters in there. That is
they are cheap.
Different in list building philosophies. I go, what's the good thing? How many of it can I take? Cool, that's how many I take.
At 200 points, I think absolutely it's definitely worth experimenting with what happens if those Deathcopters are going for every single objective. What happens at that point? Yeah.
I think running a 3rd unit also means that you can put one. You can put 2 in reserve, and you could rapid ingress 1 and deep strike another. Oh, sorry, bring the other in from strat reserve and just go. You've got some real issues to deal with. You thought you were safe.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah, it's solid.
And if you wanted to get more boys in, I think because of the way that the army moves forward so aggressively, you could not put them in a truck.
Yeah.
And just have them just run to the side objectives just to go, right, they're sticky. I've pressured you in your deployment zone, and now all the objectives are mine.
Yeah, I think adding sticky to what this is doing is definitely good. That's something I didn't utilize as much as I should. Maybe even just a big squad of boys with the Pain Boy just running up on foot and just getting on the points and adding another thing that needs removing to the list.
Every unit could benefit from 20 boys.
Yeah,
I really like boys in a truck. I think, especially because you can give them the 4-up invuln.
Yeah. And the trucks are good little action doers as well, right?
Yeah.
They're often doing the cards or whatever, whilst the rest is getting.
They win games.
They really do. They really do.
Yeah,
absolutely. But let us know what you've been running in your list, because I think this is a really open detachment. You can run a lot of different things in this one. I think out of all of the lists, this is the one that leans on the mega knobs maybe the least. They're still good. You can still run 18, but you don't have to. You've got other tools, and you feel good about putting the other tools in, so it frees up some points. Not the mega knobs cost very much.
And it's just because it's got a bit of guile and a bit of shooting output, it asks certain questions that I think a lot of the other Ork detachments don't, which gives it, in theory, some flexibility. So I'd be interested to know how people are getting on playing it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much for watching. This has been maybe the last Orc detachment that we'll do for a little while, because I think next week we're going to do Chaos. I know we threatened it last week, but schedules didn't line up. However, next week, for sure, for real, don't worry, guys, we're going to be talking about some Chaos Space Marines.
Nice.
If there's anything that you particularly want us to highlight, do let us know. We'll have a look at that one specifically. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, all of those things. See you next week.
Boo Warp Talons.
Bye.